Over the weekend, HBO Max finally released the first official trailer for Zack Snyder's Justice League. And of course, there are scores of people on social media who have spent the last 3 years believing that this movie shouldn't even exist, who just can't shut up about it. Now, obviously, the biggest aspect that folks will remember from 2017's Justice League was the news of Zack Snyder stepping down as director, having already filmed a lot of footage for his version of the Justice League after the death of his daughter, leaving the spot open for Avengers director Joss Whedon to come in and do a considerable amount of reshoots, as well as opting not to include several scenes and whole subplots that Snyder had already filmed in the theatrical version. Now, shortly after the release of Justice League, there was growing demand among pockets of Zack Snyder fans who wanted Warner Brothers to allow Zack Snyder to release a version of Justice League that was closer to what he had originally intended. And as there are many who took issues with Zack Snyder's previous interpretations of DC Comics' most prominent superheroes, they decided to push back against the idea of a Snyder Cut, and the war of words on social media has gone on to this very day. And for many of Snyder's most ardent critics, this was their moment to shine, as social media in general has done a considerable job of priming us to indulge our occasionally misguided hero complexes. And what's a hero without a villain? Even some comic book creators got in on the action, constantly, if not sanctimoniously, posting about the virtue of characters like Superman and presenting examples of how the character should be portrayed, almost as if they were fighting for a particular religious faith and they had to protect one of their patron saints at all costs. And yes, some of Snyder's fans are legitimately toxic, and it would probably be a good look for him to very vocally call out the ones that specifically go after other fans individually, but at the same time, are we going to lump in the fans that also raised almost, $500,000 for suicide prevention awareness? Don't we acknowledge that just because there are toxic fans in, say, Star Wars and Star Trek fandom, that there are still plenty of people that are legitimately decent, and we shouldn't be painting a single group of fans with a broad stroke of judgment? But shouldn't we be concerned that this is going to set a dangerous precedent? Not really, when you consider that stuff like this has been going on for literal decades within pop culture. Even as recently as 2 years ago, fans online were so incensed by the initial design for Sonic the Hedgehog from that character's movie that the designers were forced to actually redesign the character from scratch to appease the fans. There are several examples of fans campaigning for certain television shows to be brought back after cancellation, even instances of films being made based on those canceled TV shows that barely even make their budget back. And in a lot of cases where shows are brought back from fan campaigns and stuff, there's usually a small return on investment for the makers of those TV shows, usually only lasting about one extra season before finally being given the boot. But Warner Brothers could have invested that money in several smaller new films. That could potentially be true, but I feel like a lot of us plebes need to stop acting as if we know how budgets for movies should and are allocated, because very few of us who say stuff like that probably aren't working in the business ourselves. Remember when Joker was this dangerous film that nobody asked for, that ultimately went on to make over $1 billion, win 2 Academy Awards, and didn't inspire any angry white men violence that its detractors hoped? feared would happen.
Congratulations, you played yourself.
A lot of people love to talk about the Snyder Cut as if it's going to lead to the absolute collapse of civilization. And I'm here to tell you that it is not nearly that deep, fam. And in spite of it all, the most hilarious thing about this situation, most of these haters are going to watch the movie anyway. There are so many people who have invested time and energy just cursing Zack Snyder's name on social media, making every type of meme they can, and feeling like they're an actual comedian when the bar for humor on social media is pretty much on the ground at this point. And they're not going to be able to overcome the desire to satisfy their pre-established headcanon. And for others, this is about fighting for the purity and sanctity of comic book films. And as far as they're concerned, the Snyder Cut is a threat to that purity and sanctity that they have to fight at all costs. They must stand united against this threat to
fictional characters.
But not united in just not watching the film. If the people that are against Zack Snyder and the Snyder Cut firmly believe that they represent the majority of the movie-going public, then it should be a simple matter of just not watching the film when it comes out on March 18th on HBO Max. Most of them have already made up their minds about Zack Snyder anyway, but damn it if they can't stop talking about the man. Much like the Kardashians, anytime they do something as innocuous as breathing, there are tons of people online that react to Zack Snyder the same way, keeping his name on their minds and the minds of everyone else, and feeding back into his continued relevance, even though they don't want him to be relevant. Make it make sense, people! Now, there are some who say that they are planning to pirate the Snyder Cut version of Justice League when it comes out, so as to not contribute to HBO Max's numbers. And again, I'm just thinking to myself, this film is supposed to be 4 hours, and you're already convinced that there's no likelihood in which the film could actually be enjoyable, so why are we even wasting time? Is that really the dunk on Snyder that you think it is? Lord knows there are fans on social media who had a year-long hate campaign against the film Venom prior to its release, only for the film to end up making almost as much as Spider-Man Homecoming and earning itself a sequel which is still in production. Like, what happened? At the end of the day, most instances where people try to rally against some film or TV show that they believe is terrible or shouldn't exist, more often than not, they just end up providing it with a lot of free publicity. Social media is kind of constructed in such a way that even if you're talking about something terrible as far as film or television, more often than not, the conversations that we're having, good or bad, are just going to strengthen its relevance. I don't know for sure how the Justice League Snyder version is going to turn out for HBO Max. I can certainly say that there's all likelihood that this could be another case of fans trying to fight against a nebulous enemy that doesn't really exist except in their own minds. And to quote the Joker,
Police, get what you fucking deserve!
Hey guys, thanks for watching as always. If you've got your own thoughts or opinions on the Zack Snyder cut of Justice League, please feel free to go ahead and leave a comment in the section below. Don't forget to hit the like button, hit the notification bell, share this video with your friends and family, and if you'd like to keep up to date on more at random videos, you can go ahead and click the subscribe button right over here.